the new best thing, better than you've ever seen. I'm the new best thing, I'm gonna be the king. I bring that ching ching ching. Yeah, I'm the new best thing, I'm the new best thing.
Hello, welcome to Hedera Forum. We're glad you could join us. We are excited to have another member of the Hedera team with us today. Cooper Coons is joining us. Hey Cooper, how are you?
Hey Jesse, how's it going? Thanks for having me on the forum today.
Yeah, we appreciate it. You would be the second member. We had Christian Hasker on a few weeks back, and we're thrilled to have you, joined as always by Brandon with the Monetary Reset. Hey Brandon.
Hello.
And we were just talking offline a little bit about Cooper's role within Hedera, which is the developer evangelist. Cooper, why don't you just give us a brief background of how you came to work with Hedera and what your role at Hedera entails?
Yeah, it's a great story, actually. I was doing some work at a nonprofit in San Francisco, and Christian Hasker reached out and said, we got this exciting project, we're building a company, and we're about to raise some money around it. And so I think I sat down with him and got some coffee on like a Friday, started working on Hedera, pre-capital, pre-product on that Monday. So just two days later. And I've actually done a bunch of different stuff at Hedera throughout my time there. Few people know this, but I actually originally built Hedera.com. So that's one thing I'm kind of proud of. It's a pretty nice website. And we've had a bunch of other websites, the Hedera 18 site. We used to have a docs site that we wrote ourselves internally. I even worked on the daily timestamp and building some of that infrastructure and some of the community testing programs that we had before the actual open access launch. And then after, mainnet went live and people could start building on it more easily, I transitioned from kind of like a software developer to a full-time developer evangelist role. So going and educating and enabling developers on how to build on the network and why it's something that they should take seriously. Very
cool. I thought we should mention, since it just wrapped up, the Hedera Town Hall that just finished recording. Some fun tidbits in there. Cooper, did you take anything away specifically that caught your ear? I assume you tuned in as well? Yeah, I was able to watch, most of it. It did just end, I think, about an hour or two ago, as at the time of recording this. I always really love what Mance and Lehman have to say, and especially just getting a good insight into how Lehman thinks and how unique of a mathematician, computer scientist, cryptographer he really is. Even as someone who works there, it's always fun to watch. I really like his knowledge and insights, especially on post-quantum resistant cryptography and why it's kind of a buzzword or something that, unless you're actually educated on this space, you probably won't really know what the ramifications are. So the importance of staying crypto agile and being able to switch which hashing and encryption algorithms you're using is always fun to hear him talk about. Yeah, he's got that enthusiasm for sure. They were talking about something having to do with the standardization of units of measure or something, and he was really excited about that, and I kind of lost track for a minute, came back, I'm like, they're still talking about kilograms? I'm like, what? And I'm sure it was all very factually correct and interesting to some, but I sort of zoned out there for a second. Yeah, I always say that Lehman is the computer science professor that I wish I had when I was in college. Yeah. What do you think, Brandon? Any takeaways from the town hall today?
I'll have a few questions in here about the town hall, but the first question I kind of wanted to bring up, you kind of gave us a general idea of what you do at Hedera. What are you currently working on that really has you excited, or in general, what has you really excited about Hedera? Yeah, it's a good question. So as many people in the community know, we just wrapped up our 6-week virtual hackathon. So I worked on that primarily with our senior events manager, Lena. Shout out to Lena if you're watching this. And so throughout that event, I was working with our partners, working with the developer community that's building on Hedera, helping them build out their use cases and actually make sure that their API implementations were, working, consistent, good use cases, those types of things.
One of the main things that I'm doing right now is focusing on building out our content library for people coming inbound to the community. So ways that we can build starter projects in popular development frameworks like React, React Native, Express, Spring Boot, just really lowering the burden of development and the barrier of entry to building on Hedera. Like we want to make it something that you can have a production ready deployment within 30 minutes is something that we're working towards right now.
Oh, fun. Good stuff.
Lots of fun stuff.
The next question I have is something that was mentioned in the town hall, and that has to do with there was a bug that kind of came out with the official wallet, and it sounds like there's a plan to address that. Can you go into some more details about that?
Yeah. So I would preface this by saying, Hedera from the beginning built our wallets as, an open source project for kind of two purposes. So one of the purpose of building our own wallets was to show people how you would actually build a mobile wallet on Hedera. It's not a blockchain. It's not just like integrating a new contract in Ethereum. It is, a different development paradigm. And so one of the reasons we put those out as kind of our initial demo applications is that it's a commonly used functionality, and we wanted to provide, good ways and clear paths to doing so. And the other side of, why we built those is that we really needed to support our SAFT holders and initial investors and make sure that when the network was ready to go live, we would have the wallet infrastructure to support those, distributions. And so with that being said, Hedera really, really wants to build the best and most enterprise-grade public network out there. We really don't want to long-term focus on building great wallet software. That's something that you need to staff up, entire engineering teams just to support. And so Mance mentioned it in the town hall that was released today that we are partnering with what's actually one of my favorite wallets in the entire industry on providing what I would call first-class support for Hedera accounts. And by first-class support, I mean you'll be able to use your existing mnemonic phrases, your 24-word phrases, or your private and public key pairings, and keep your existing account IDs into that new wallet experience. That's just one of the things that we're currently working on with the wallets. He also mentioned in the town hall that we have bug fixes, and I'll be supporting that for a long time to come. But long term, we want to be really, really great at building a network and not really, really great at building a wallet.
Sure. So he said that it was it would be a seamless transfer for whomever this wallet provider would be. So that means essentially you just need your mnemonic phrases, as you mentioned, and your account ID. And you'd be able to put that wallet on your Android or your iOS phone and run that alongside the other wallet until you feel comfortable with the new wallet. And then if you wanted to, you could get rid of the old, right?
Absolutely. It's not going to be, an overnight or a quick process. It's going to be very slow and make sure that everyone's, comfortable with the options that are out there. It's not just one option. There's a wealth of, I think we have 6 or 8 different wallet solutions right now.
Sure.
But we want to make sure before we start any type of, movement or encouragement to those third-party solutions that there are a variety of wallets that support importing existing accounts. So, Atomic and Bread are great wallets, but you can't import your accounts into them. And so we're not going to, do anything or move away from our wallet until there are, multiple options there that you can import existing accounts into. And like you said, trust and, keep both of them until you're happy with how they're working out.
Now that makes sense. And a lot of people take the low numbers as a status thing, right? So if you have, 1099, you want to keep that number. So, and it makes it a lot easier because those accounts are certainly stuck in my head.
Easier to remember the 4-digit ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff.
It's definitely a status symbol. And, I see people who have lower account numbers than myself or other people that work there. And I'm just like, how did you get this? It's pretty cool. And, similarly to people having like the 3-digit or less Twitter handles, I can actually see like an aftermarket or a secondary market for purchasing accounts from other people just because you want the status symbol.
Yeah, I know some people have struggled with the wallet. I didn't have the issue. Essentially, all I did was I turned off all the automatic updates, and I let everybody else test the updates before I implemented it. So I left it off once I heard there was some issues going on.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. We've been focused on a lot of different, use cases, new features on the network. And like I said, Hedera wants to be amazing at building the network. We don't want to be a mobile wallet company in the long term. There's a lot of people out there who that's their exclusive focus, and they do it very well.
Sure.
And I was actually, I can't disclose who it is yet, but the product and the partners that we're working with is probably my favorite wallet in the space. So I'm very excited about getting first-class Hedera support in there.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah,
me too.
I remember Lehman discussing this months and months ago, saying the same thing. The iOS wallet is here. It's going to be fine, but the code would be open source, and it's like a toolkit. It would be a good idea, hint, hint, if people were to start developing wallets. And, this was probably a year ago or maybe 8 months ago or something. And Lehman tends to drop those little hints like, oh, this might be a good idea for somebody to start working on. And somebody like Pablo or with hashing systems, I know a few people have sort of taken the reins and run with a few of these things and done really well. So that's cool to see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it grows. Different wallets in the cryptocurrency community can add first-class support for HBAR next to other assets, which makes it really nice for other people to come inbound and get exposure to, maybe tokens that they haven't heard about or that are having some market action and they want to learn more about. But there's also kind of another side of, Hedera wallets, which is Hedera has so many unique features that would never be supported in these, one-size-fits-all wallet options that support other assets. So Hedera natively supports threshold SIGs and multi-signature accounts. And, hopefully people can build wallets that are exclusively focused on some of those lesser known or lesser supported features that are unique to Hedera. We actually have one project in the Hedera Boost startup program called Walla Wallet. Shout out to the developers of Walla Wallet if you watch this. That are working on, providing access to some of those lesser known or less popular features that traditional wallet providers probably want to take the time to integrate.
Yeah, I suppose it's pretty economical building on an ERC20 thing that, everything is sort of compatible and all you got to do is rename it, and it's like cut and paste for a lot of that stuff, I'm sure.
Just change the contract address that you're pointing to and they're traditionally, instantly supported. But, actually, you guys had Pablo on to talk about wrapped HBAR. If that has, enough liquidity, enough traction in the market, all those Ethereum-based wallets would be able to support a form of HBAR instantly. It's just pointing to the right contract.
Sure.
But
yeah,
lots of
cool
stuff
project
to come in the wallet space. Very, very excited about it.
So the next thing we wanted to touch on, can you tell us a little bit more about the Mirror Node release to Google Cloud and Amazon Web Services?
Yeah, this is actually a big milestone for the Hedera community in my mind. One of the things when we work with partners, large companies, even exchanges, is that they need direct access to Hedera mirror nodes and historical data. And usually you need this coming from multiple different sources. So it's not, just okay to have Hedera tell you what the transaction stream is. You need multiple people hosting it. You need multiple people running it, and being able to run it yourself is a big deal for building out your use cases or your integrations. And so this actually hit the beta release of our Hedera mirror node software. And as part of that mirror node release, we worked with the Google Cloud team on getting really great integrations into the Google Cloud Marketplace. So you can go onto the Google Cloud Marketplace where they have all of their other kind of product suite, and within, I think it's like 4 or 5 clicks, they say it's 1 click, but there's always some more configuration. We have 1-click, quote unquote, deployment from the Google Cloud Marketplace. And so within about 5 minutes, maybe, I actually have a coding tutorial coming up soon about how to deploy it. But within 5 minutes, you can have a Hedera mirror node running on Google Cloud, which is a really, really big deal. And you just pay for how much data you're reading from that mirror node instance. So that's like really great support within the Google Cloud Marketplace. We also have support if you don't want to trust Google in the sake of decentralization. Those same infrastructure and data streams are available in Amazon Web Services as well. So you could run both if you really wanted to for some reason, but it's just a few minutes to get set up in either of those cloud environments.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. That's one of the things that I know exchanges want to keep the whole blockchain with blockchain platforms, and just to be able to have the information of what's going on in the chain, just to cover their butts a little bit. But you don't have that option as much if with Hedera, except for with mirror nodes, and then they can keep as much as they want. They can keep back 6 months or back a year, or however they can kind of tailor it to themselves. So that'll make it easier for them to integrate that and make sure that they have that information at their fingertips.
Yeah, very, very important for compliance and auditability reasons, especially for exchanges and on-ramps. Also just being able to run your own mirror node, and in the case of like an AdStacks, who was recently on the Hedera forum, being able for AdStacks to run a mirror node on Google Cloud and only listen to accounts that they own or manage is, a really exciting thing. And we're going to have more releases to the mirror node software coming up. But it's a great example. I don't know if you've ever checked out the code on our GitHub, but it is a great example of the high quality engineering talent at Hedera. So it's really well written stuff.
Good.
All right, I got one for you, Cooper. We were talking about the preview net earlier, and Lehman mentioned that a few town halls ago, I think, and that the test net was sort of operating too well, and that there would be a preview net inserted before the test net. Can you tell us a little bit about the development of the test net?
Absolutely. So what we're seeing is we have a bunch of different proof of concepts, customer use cases that are built out, and throughout their development process, approval process, integration process, they live on the Hedera testnet. And only when they're ready to go, public and start marketing promotions or go live, do they move to the actual Hedera main network, which makes sense. It doesn't cost them anything in terms of HBARs to test out that whole infrastructure on the testnet. But what happens is Hedera ships software much more quickly than any other team really in the distributed ledger space. Like there are major upgrades or improvements to the Ethereum protocol every couple months, maybe every quarter at most. Hedera does monthly releases, if not multiple releases a month. And so being able to give development teams an early access to what is coming. So as soon as a feature passes like Hedera's test cases, we want to give the community access to what those features and changes are going to look like. And so we're standing up what we are currently calling the preview net. So it'll be directly integrated with Hedera's release cycles, and it will preview all of the changes that are about to come to the test network. And, after they're live on the test network for, a couple of weeks or months to validate them, then they'll move to the actual mainnet. And so if you're building, community supported SDKs in the instance of bug bites and maintaining like a .NET SDK, it's really important that on day one of testnet getting updated, your software already supports those changes. And so it's really great that our product team was able to take in this feedback and understand the needs of the community and make this happen. I think our preview net should be out pretty soon, and you might start seeing it coming up in our documentation.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's exciting.
And it's another metric by which we can access sort of, early volume, which is, or things that might translate into volume that might migrate towards the mainnet in the future.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of, internal networks that we use for, performance testing or load testing and all of those types of things. but having something that the community can play around with and, have instant access to is going to be very helpful.
So going back to one of the things that was brought up in the town hall, the question was asked, like, what is the main competitor for Hedera? And I know that the root of that question was probably another platform. I know I usually compare Hedera to Algorand, high throughput and platform that was launched around the same time, things like that. One of the other things that was brought up during the town hall was why we don't do things like airdrops. And it's for regulatory reasons that the SEC said airdrops are a bad idea. And there's a lot of things like that I think Hedera tries to not do. And in the short term, it might prevent us from having a hype cycle or people getting too excited. But in the long term, it's much better for Hedera and Hedera investors to be cautious when it comes to those kind of things. Is there any other competitors you see that you think are worthy of competing with Hedera, or that you have any comments on?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think what you and the rest of the community has dubbed our motto of Hedera, all substance, no hype is very true. And you'll rarely ever hear a Hedera employee talk about another distributed ledger, another blockchain, another cryptocurrency, especially in a negative light. It's just not what we do. It's not going to help our business. It's not going to help us get mainstream adoption. And I think the opportunity to work with or provide solutions to a lot of those other platforms out there is kind of underestimated by our community. I think Hedera has obviously differentiated technology and a differentiated governance and ownership model. And so, we would much rather say nothing than to try to make noise for no reason, which is, one of the things I deeply appreciate about our team and how serious we are. If you think about where our team comes from, they are enterprise backgrounds from Oracle and IBM and, DataStax and a bunch of like the leading technology companies in the world. And we're not from this kind of let's argue over the sake of whose crypto is going to be worth more in the next 10 minutes. Like, that's not what we do. What we do is we build practical enterprise technology. With that being said, I think that I'm very interested to see what the next class of public networks that are going to get publicly listed will be. There are a lot of projects that raised money about the same time as Hedera and haven't been listed on public markets yet. So I'm talking, specifically about Filecoin, Polkadot, Dfinity, the Flow blockchain are really well-respected teams and well-respected projects that do different things. But seeing what they can put out in terms of marketing material versus actually bring to market and what that will look like, what their use cases will actually come out to be, what customers they might have, if at all, will be very interesting. If I really like looking at year 2050 market cap, Masari has a really nice screener where you can actually look at projects on fully diluted valuations by 2050.
Sure.
And, I think right now Hedera is probably 15 in that list, and Filecoin's probably in the top 3 or 5. Polkadot's definitely within the top 3 or 5. But those are, unlike Hedera, platforms that aren't in the market. People don't know how they're going to work. They're solving much more untested problems. And they don't really have any existing customers. They're not live. You don't know what traction they're getting. And so I'm very fascinated to see what happens to not only their, token price, I guess, if they list publicly, but also to see if they can find a niche in the market and if they can actually attract any customers.
That makes sense.
It'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, we're watching this entire space like hawks, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that there are a lot of ways that, Hedera won't talk about other projects or, quote unquote competitors necessarily, but I think that there are a lot of ways that Hedera can provide solutions to these other platforms. So, you know, Lehman likes to think about not only doing Polkadot style interoperability, so bridging Hedera to other networks, ways that Hedera can do pure interoperability, which is bridging two unrelated networks together. So like a Fabric instance in the Ethereum blockchain with Hedera sitting in the middle of it. And those are things that Hedera is very well suited to do, and no one else is even thinking about really. They just don't want the network traffic if it doesn't bring on-chain value to them. And Hedera is more than happy to be that kind of boring piece of middleware connecting everything together.
Yeah, there's so many projects that they're focused on interoperability, but that doesn't mean that Hedera can't do just as good a job or better, even though they're more focused right now on base layer applications.
Yeah, or things like, you know, talking about Filecoin specifically, like it's a layer on top of IPFS and it's an incentive network on top of IPFS. And there's very much a way that projects building on Hedera would want to use something like Filecoin in addition to using Hedera. So it's, you know, super interesting to see and think about what this kind of next class of ledgers is going to look like. But, you know, I think it's very easy for teams in this space to make a lot of hype, unlike Hedera. And when they actually have to put out a product, if they ever do, you see a lot of teams making hype that'll never release a legitimate project in the space. What that'll look like and how that resets their community's expectations. Sure.
So Cooper, I think our final question to you, one of the things that the community is really interested in is enterprise level use cases. We talked to AdsDAX earlier this morning, and of course we're very interested in a certain subset of enterprise level use cases, and that's the council members. Can you tell us anything about some of the things they have brewing?
Yeah, you know, there's only so much that we can say at the moment, but what we talk about is, and you talk about it as well, is that 2020 is really validating our model, and 2021 we're really looking to scale up the use cases and, you know, see just how many council deployments we can get throughout that year. There are a lot of different approaches to enterprise blockchain and enterprise use cases and ways that you can bring value to your business. And we're seeing adoption in a couple different threads. So, you know, one that we have publicly talked about, and Scott Thiel from DLA Piper has publicly talked about, is their interest in doing asset tokenization and potentially IP rights management and, you know, some things around that space, which I think, you know, is very, very exciting stuff. But there's also kind of this other, you know, approach and this other kind of market that we're seeing a lot of interest in, which is data synchronization. And ways that you can use HCS to keep multi-party databases, you know, transparent and in the same, you know, consistency.
Sure.
This is a coupon bureau-like use case where everyone in the coupon industry would be able to run their own database and make sure that no one's being fraudulent.
Yeah.
And so those are two areas that we're seeing a lot of interest in. But I would expect, you know, us to keep on par with what we've been saying, where we're validating our model this year, and next year we're looking to scale. People talk about how there's $2 billion or whatever locked into Ethereum's DeFi ecosystem. With the customers that we're dealing with, you could have more financial services locked into Hedera overnight. It is just a totally different scale than what the rest of the market is concerned about.
Oh, that's exciting. Good stuff.
So
yeah, certainly. Yeah, I think there was also some good insights in, you know, sad that they had to leave the council, but Kamal's blog post was also insightful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I want to call attention to some work that Brandon has done this week on the topic of decentralization. If we can shift there now, guys. We talked about a few different platforms earlier in the video, and also sort of the way in which other platforms might go about their marketing efforts and sort of the so-called hype cycle. We know that Hedera is all substance, no hype. That goes without saying. But other platforms are not. They tend to carry a lot of hype around, and some well-founded, some maybe not. Time will tell. But Brandon took the time to put together this video, and I would direct you guys to Brandon's website, themonetaryreset.com. And what you'll see is his latest video right here is a comparison of the decentralization or perceived decentralization of Hedera, Bitcoin, EOS, Ethereum, and Bitcoin Cash. Brandon, you care to give us a synopsis of the video here? And also, you could find it on YouTube, of course, but I encourage you guys to check out the website as well. But yeah, Brandon, tell us about this video.
Yeah, so I've seen in the past sometimes crypto influencers will discount Hedera, claiming that it's centralized. From the beginning, I never really understood that, because I think they went to great pains to make Hedera as decentralized as possible. And really, when you dig into the other platforms, and I did an awful lot of research to really figure out what the relative decentralization is between these different platforms, whether it be geographical decentralization, or if it's how many different entities have control over it and things like that. But, I'm not going to do a synopsis of the entire thing. I'd like everybody to go and watch it. But the reason I actually did it wasn't just because I've noticed that many times, but a few community members said they wish they could just have something they could put out quickly when somebody says, that Hedera is decentralized, and then they don't want to hear anything about it. Something where they can actually get educated. Now, of course, there's going to be arguments about, some of the facts that I have in there. I tried to be as thorough and as well researched as possible. But the main person I was thinking about when I was doing it was somebody called Ivan on Tech. He has a great YouTube channel. He's very entertaining. But a couple times he said things even like Hedera isn't even a cryptocurrency, or HBAR is not even a cryptocurrency because of it being centralized. And really, when you put the facts next to each other, that doesn't make any sense compared to a lot of these other platforms. So maybe in a couple days, how about, I think this is going to be posted maybe on the 21st, maybe on the Friday the 23rd. If everybody can go on his show, he has it every day at 8 a.m. Central European time. Maybe put a comment down there, put a link to this video, and I'll put up the information on that. Now, of course, we want to be friendly. We want to be cordial. We're not doing this to be confrontational. We're doing it to educate some other people, and hopefully educate Ivan on Tech and have him look a little bit deeper and have him do his own research. So again, in a couple days, just put a couple comments down in his comment section. I think his email is support@ivan.academy. I'll put that up as well. Maybe you could just drop him a line and let him know to take a look at this. And if he doesn't like the research that I did, maybe he can put his own research between the different platforms together and put out some of his own information. Explain why he thinks different platforms are decentralized and other platforms are centralized, things like that. But either way, again, a call out to all the Hederians out there, or Lehman's Legion, whatever you want to call yourself. Maybe get this out there. When somebody says that a platform is decentralized or more decentralized than another, maybe put this out there as some information for them.
There's a lot of good research that went into it, and thanks for doing that, Brandon. I always appreciate the research you put into these things. And I mentioned how I first found out about Hedera was through Hidden Forces podcast, and Dimitri Kofinas is another guy. The research that goes into his producing those shows is mind-boggling. And I saw recently that he's going to have, speaking of other platforms, and I don't think it's a competitor to Hedera, but he's going to have Munib Ali, the founder of Blockstack, on soon, I believe. And I was sort of commenting on there, I would love to see Lehman and Munib discuss these things together, because they are two of the people that I think would resonate with each other. So you guys got anything else?
Yeah, Cooper, do you have any thoughts on decentralization? Anything that when you hear that argument or you hear that brought up, anything?
Yeah, I did get to watch that YouTube video, and I really appreciate all the work that you've put into that and the other videos on Hedera that you've made, and the work that you put into the Hedera forum at large. It's really great to see what the community is interested in talking about. I think it's fascinating that people talk about decentralization in a black and white context, when in reality it's a spectrum, and it's a multifaceted spectrum at that.
Agree.
But this was a great video. I think the fact that Vitalik and some of these people are still in charge of their respective platforms years and years later, without much outside control or influence there is very insightful. And I wonder how long people will be making the same arguments against Hedera's decentralization, even after we get, post 3-year council member turnover, and require different council members to come into the picture.
I remember back in December that Mance was saying how he was having a hard time getting something through the council. They weren't agreeing with him and Lehman, and it just shows that they certainly don't have an iron grip. Of course, they have some influence, but if Lehman and Mance all the way back in December were having a hard time getting some of their things through the council, they're thinking independently, right?
Absolutely. There's so many things that us as the Hedera team would probably do or love to do, but the council doesn't want to, just because it's not in their interest. It's not something that is going to help us build a long-term successful business. So things like paying influencers to write videos or blogs, so you'll never see paid content creation coming out of Hedera. We just don't think that we need it. Sure. The day that the council thinks that it's time to start doing aggressive use case marketing or something like that, it's a switch that they can turn on anytime that they want.
And they can do that themselves, right? They don't need an influencer to do that.
They do not. It's just the relative scale of what we're doing with is so different than a majority of the industry. It's hard for people to grasp sometimes.
Good. All right. So the last thing, Jesse, do you think you can go to xhdesigns.net?
Oh yeah.
So we've talked to Thomas over there at xhdesigns.net to do some graphics and talk about getting our money's worth out of some of the stuff that he's provided for us. The intro that you see, you'll see we have an exit video. A lot of the other graphics that we use are all done by him, and I couldn't be happier with it. So if anybody wants some really cool graphics made, I suggest going over there and stopping by. As I said, we're certainly getting our money's worth. So drop him a line and see what he can do for you.
Yeah, thanks for all that stuff, man. It looks great. Classing up the forum, as I've alluded to before, which we need a lot of help, but we're getting there.
Well, Cooper helped us out today, no question.
That's right.
Yeah, well, I appreciate both of you having us on. Like I said, it's always great to see what the community is interested in and what they're talking about. I'm more than happy to come back anytime.
All right, Cooper. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.
See ya.